I heard the moan before I even touched the doorknob. Soft, breathy, and absolutely not coming from a movie like she claimed to be watching. My fingers froze mid-turn. The apartment was dark except for the flicker of the TV, but it was her voice, that half sigh, half plea, that made something drop in my stomach. I wasn't supposed to care. We were just roommates. Roommates who split bills, traded leftovers, and occasionally stole each other's laundry detergent. But when I pushed the door open, what I saw burned through every carefully built boundary I'd pretended existed between us. She was on the couch. Blanket pushed halfway off her legs. Tank top strap falling off one shoulder. Eyes closed, one hand buried deep under the waistband of her pajama shorts. My name slipped from her lips, not once, not twice, 3 times. I didn't mean to stare, but I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. And when her eyes opened and locked on mine, there was no shame. No apology. Just silence. Then she whispered, "You were supposed to be gone tonight." And I lied. I said, "I forgot something." But the truth? I didn't forget. I came back on purpose. I wanted to see something. I just didn't know what. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone, because it only gets messier from here. We had rules. Simple ones. No overnight guests. No using each other's things without asking. No mixing business with pleasure, and by business, I mean rent, and by pleasure, I mean the kind of pleasure I found her tangled in when I walked through that door. Her name was Maya. She moved in 6 months ago after a Craigslist post I almost deleted. She needed a room, I needed help with the bills, and we both agreed we weren't looking for drama. She was funny in that low-key, sarcastic way, always humming some old R&B song while she cooked, always barefoot, always walking around like she owned the air. The kind of girl who could wear an oversized hoodie and make it look like high fashion. I noticed her. Of course, I did. But I buried it. Deep. I remember our first grocery run together. She stood in the cereal aisle for 10 minutes arguing with me over Frosted Flakes versus Cheerios like it was life or death. And when I finally tossed both in the cart just to end the debate, she grinned like I'd proposed. That smile haunted me for nights. But I told myself it meant nothing. We were just roommates. That lie worked, until that night. After I saw her on the couch, I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, trying to pretend I hadn't replayed her voice saying my name 100 times. Trying to ignore how it twisted inside me, the way her body arched, how her eyes didn't flinch when she saw me watching. The next morning, the air in the apartment was tight. Like a string pulled too taut, ready to snap. I stayed in my room longer than usual. She knocked around in the kitchen like everything was normal. Like I hadn't watched her touch herself to the thought of me. I finally came out around noon. She was making coffee. Didn't turn around when I walked in. "You want some?" she asked, casual. Too casual. "No, I'm good." I poured cereal into a bowl like my hands weren't shaking. We didn't talk about it. Not then. Not that day. Not even that week. But everything changed. The way she looked at me lingered too long. The way she brushed past me in the hallway left static behind. And I was weak. God, I was so weak. A few nights later, I came home late from work. She was curled up on the couch again, this time watching some old rom-com. I stood there, backpack slung over one shoulder, just watching her laugh at a scene where the guy chases the girl in the rain. She looked up at me and patted the spot beside her. "You look tired," she said. "I'm exhausted." She waited. I sat down. We didn't say anything for a while. The TV filled the silence. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. I swear, my whole body lit up like a fuse. And I didn't move. I let her stay there, let her breathe against my neck, let my heart betray every rule we'd written. She whispered, "I meant it, you know." What? That night. I wasn't faking. I turned to her. Why? Her eyes didn't flinch. "Because I wanted you to see me. I've been waiting for you to see me." That was the moment everything cracked. I kissed her. God help me, I kissed her. Hard. Fast. Desperate. Like all the months of pretending didn't matter. She pulled me closer. Hands everywhere. The couch. The floor. It wasn't love, not yet, it was heat and hunger and the kind of tension that's been simmering so long it explodes on contact. Afterward, we lay on the floor, tangled in each other. She said, "So, roommates don't do that." I laughed. "No. They don't. We should probably talk about this." I nodded, but I already knew. We weren't just roommates anymore. We were something messy, eh? Something beautiful. Something doomed. Because the problem wasn't just what we did, it was what I was hiding. The secret I had buried deep under the floorboards of our apartment. And the person who would destroy everything if they ever found out. There's a version of this story where I'm the good guy. Where I fall for my roommate, we laugh about how unexpected it all was, and it turns into one of those cute couples you'd never expect TikToks. But that version? It's a lie. Because the truth is, I was already involved with someone else. Not officially. Not on paper. But emotionally? Physically? Yeah. Her name was Danny. She was my on-again, off-again mess of an ex who never really stayed gone. The kind of girl who'd disappear for weeks and then show up outside my building drunk at 2 a.m. crying about how no one understood her but me. And every time, like a fool, I'd let her in. Maya didn't know about Danny. I told myself it wasn't lying, just not important. We were never exclusive, not really. At least that's what I told myself as justification for what I did. But lying by omission still rots the same way. After that night with Maya, things shifted. She smiled more. She started leaving little notes on the fridge, things like "good luck today," smiley face, or "I ate your pasta, Sumi, love." She danced in the kitchen again. Played music louder. Wore fewer clothes. And I fell deeper. But every time I got too close, guilt would claw at my spine. Danny texted more. Called. Left voicemails. "I miss you. I had a dream about you last night. Why aren't you answering?" I ignored them, mostly. Until one night, I didn't. Maya had gone out with her friends. I was alone, buzzed from 2 beers and too much thinking. Danny called. I picked up. One stupid, weak moment. She said, "I'm outside." And there she was. Leather jacket. Smudged eyeliner. Eyes that always made me feel like a fire had started in the room. She asked to come up. I said yes. We didn't sleep together, not fully. But we kissed. She stayed the night. I told myself it didn't mean anything. That Maya didn't have to know. That what we had was still new, undefined. But lies breed like mold. And I was already infected. The next morning, I woke up in a panic. Danny was still asleep. I snuck out of bed, tried to clean up any trace of her toothbrush, perfume, that damned red scarf she always wore. I shoved it in a drawer. My hands were shaking. Then I heard the front door. Maya. I walked out like nothing happened. "Hey," I said, too casually. "You're back early." She smiled, holding 2 coffees. "Felt like coming home. Brought you your favorite." I wanted to vomit. She leaned in to kiss me, and I let her. I tasted her warmth with Danny's lipstick still on my collar. I was scum. That afternoon, Danny left quietly. Maya never saw her. And for a while, I believed I'd gotten away with it. Maya and I kept doing what we were doing, eating dinner together, watching movies, touching each other in ways that felt like more than just skin. But there was a crack running through everything, and I knew exactly where it started. Then, one night, I came home to find Maya sitting on the couch, silent. Her face blank. She was holding something in her hand. It was the red scarf. "I was looking for my sweater," she said calmly, "and I found this." My blood ran cold. I opened my mouth to lie, instinct, like breathing, but something about her eyes stopped me. She asked, "Who is she?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Maya stood up. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. That made it worse. "You told me I was the only one," she said. I whispered, "You are." It was a mistake. A moment. She shook her head. "No. A moment is forgetting to buy milk. This was a choice." I reached for her. She stepped back. And then, quietly, she said, "You broke the one rule I cared about." "What rule?" "No lies." I tried to speak. She was already walking to her room. That night, I stared at her closed door, replaying everything. The looks. The laughter. The way she said my name that first night. I broke something I didn't know how to fix. But the worst part? She didn't move out. She stayed. We were still roommates. Only now, we were strangers again, sleeping under the same roof, pretending not to hear each other cry through the walls. The silence between us became its own kind of noise. She didn't slam doors. She didn't throw my stuff out. She didn't scream. No, Maya punished me the way that only someone who once loved you can, with distance so sharp, it made the air feel cold even in the middle of July. We still split rent. Still shared groceries. Still passed each other in the hallway like ghosts pretending to be alive. But the little things, the notes on the fridge, the way she used to steal fries off my plate, the sleepy smile she gave me when we both reached for the kettle in the morning, gone. Erased. Like they never happened. Except they did. I could still feel them on my skin. One night, I came home late. I was half drunk, maybe fully. I'd sat through an awkward dinner with some guys from work and spent the whole time staring at my phone, wondering if she'd text. She didn't. She never did anymore. When I opened the door, the lights were off. But I saw her. Sitting on the couch. Hoodie zipped up to her chin. Bare legs curled beneath her. Staring straight ahead. I said, "You okay?" She didn't even blink. "You left the milk out again." Sorry. I didn't mean to." "You don't mean a lot of things," she said, standing up. "Maya, please," I said. My voice cracked. "Just talk to me." She looked at me, and I swear something flickered in her eyes, not hate, not anger. Worse. Pity. "There's nothing left to say," she replied, walking to her room. But that was a lie, and I knew it. There were so many things left to say. I just didn't know how to say them anymore. A week passed. Then another. We stopped eating together. She cooked her own meals, ate in her room. I started staying out later just to avoid being home. The apartment felt hollow. Like every memory we made had been sucked out and replaced with silence. Then, one night, everything cracked again. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of crying. Not quiet, polite crying, but gut-wrenching, can't-breathe sobs. I stumbled out of bed and followed the sound. Her door was open. She was sitting on the floor, phone in her hand, mascara streaked down her cheeks. I knelt beside her. What happened? She didn't even look at me. My dad's in the hospital. Stroke. My mom said he might not wake up. My breath caught. I reached for her, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't flinch. She just collapsed into me, shaking. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." She cried until her body went limp against mine. I carried her to bed, tucked her in, and stayed beside her all night, holding her hand. Not as a boyfriend. Not as a roommate. Just someone who broke her heart and still wanted to fix what he could. Morning came. She was still asleep when I got up to make breakfast. I made her favorite eggs, toast, the overpriced oat milk she always insisted on. When she woke up, she ate in silence. Then she looked at me and said, "Don't think this changes anything." I nodded. "I don't. I just wanted to be here. For you." She stood up. "I don't need you to be here. I need you to stop hurting me." That hit harder than I expected. I wanted to say, "I never meant to hurt you." But I didn't. Because at some point, the road to hell stops being paved with good intentions and just becomes hell. Later that week, she flew out to see her dad. I offered to go with her. She refused. And that was the first time I realized she might forgive me one day, but she'd never come back. Still, something inside me couldn't let go. I stayed in the apartment. Didn't go out. Didn't see anyone. Just waited. Cleaned the place up. Put fresh flowers in her room. Fixed the leaky faucet she always complained about. Cooked dinner and left it in the fridge with sticky notes that said dumb things like "Eat me, the pasta, not me, just in case." She didn't respond. But when she finally came back, a week later, she didn't slam the door. She walked in quietly, looked around, and said, "You cleaned?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because I wanted you to come back to something that felt like home." She exhaled. Closed her eyes. "You don't get to do that," she said softly. "Do what?" "Act like this is still home." Then she walked past me, straight to her room. Closed the door. But that night, her door opened. And for the first time in weeks, she climbed into my bed. Said nothing. Just lay beside me, our backs barely touching, the silence thick with everything we still hadn't said. And just before sleep took her, she whispered, "I wish I hated you." I didn't respond. Because the truth? I wished she did too. The morning after she crawled into my bed, I woke up to her already gone. Just a dent in the pillow and the faint scent of her shampoo left behind. I laid there longer than I should have, clutching at warmth that didn't belong to me anymore. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd softened. That last night meant a shift. But that's the thing about hope, it's addictive, dangerous, and almost always a liar. When I walked into the kitchen, she was standing at the stove, flipping pancakes. Her hair tied up, sleeves pushed back. Familiar. Domestic. Like nothing had ever broken. "You hungry?" she asked without looking up. "Starving," I said, afraid to move too quickly. We ate in near silence, except for the clink of forks against plates. She didn't make eye contact. Didn't smile. But she didn't walk away either. And that made me stupidly hopeful again. "I know you don't owe me anything," I finally said. "But I need to know." "Last night, why?" She wiped her mouth slowly with a napkin and said, "Because I needed to remember. One last time. What it felt like to want you." My heart dropped. "One last time?" She nodded. "I'm moving out." I froze. "Wait, what?" "I signed a lease yesterday. Place isn't far. I'll be gone in 2 weeks." The words hit harder than I expected. 1,000 arguments flew through my brain. "Stay, let's fix this, I love you, don't go," but I stayed silent. Maybe for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't have the right to beg. Instead, I asked, "Did you already pack?" "A little." And then she added, "I wanted to tell you after breakfast." I didn't want to ruin the last good meal we'd ever have together. The next 2 weeks were a slow death. Boxes appeared. Little by little, pieces of her vanished from the apartment. Her mug was gone. Her fuzzy gray blanket. The framed photo of her and her dad by the front door. Every item she took made the place colder. Quieter. One night, I found her sitting in her empty room, the walls bare. She was staring at nothing. I leaned against the doorframe, unsure. "I found the key you gave me," she said. "The spare." I almost threw it out. I stepped in. "You didn't?" She shook her head. Not yet. I knelt beside her. Maya, I know I don't deserve another chance. But if I asked, would you stay? She didn't look at me. You waited too long to ask. Silence. She finally turned. Her eyes glistened. I loved you, she whispered. So much, I stopped recognizing myself. I was happy. I was scared. I was willing to break every rule we had just to be with you. And you broke me anyway. Tears stung the back of my eyes. I never stopped loving you. She smiled, painfully. Then why did it take me leaving for you to say it? I had no answer. Just regret. The day she moved out, she left a note on the counter. It said, I hope you find someone who makes you feel everything I did, but chooses you better than you chose me. I stood in the kitchen reading it over and over, the key she didn't throw out resting beside the paper. I didn't chase her. I didn't call. I let her walk out of my life, not because I didn't love her, but because loving her wasn't enough to undo the damage I caused. Weeks passed. The apartment never felt like home again. I still expected to hear her laugh in the next room. Still looked for her cereal in the pantry. Still reached for her hand in my sleep. One day, I passed by her new place. I didn't go up. Just stood across the street, watching through the window. She was laughing with someone new. She looked okay. No, she looked better than okay. She looked free. And me? I went home. Closed the door. Sat in the silence I created. We started as roommates. We ended as a lesson. And maybe that's all I'll ever be to her now. A mistake that taught her exactly what she never wants again.